I'd like to welcome everybody to the Delaware County Commissioners meeting. It's Monday, April 21st, 2014. The time is 9:01. If everyone stand for the pledge, please. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Denise, can you call the roll, please?
Sure. Mr. Bledsoe.
Here.
Ms. Reagan.
Present.
Mr. King.
Here.
Ms. Shawn Neal. Present.
We have no public hearings. We need approval of the minutes for April 7th, 2014.
So moved.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. Denise, can you call the roll, please?
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Ms. Reagan.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes. Move on to presentations to the commissioners. Photo, Angie.
Good morning, Commissioners. I have two representatives here today from American Structure Point, Mike Rost and Joe Fragamini, who would like to present a photo to you of our award-winning Jackson Street Bridge project. They represent the design firm and the inspection firm that oversaw this project. We hold this project dear to our heart. We had 12 months to get this thing designed and to letting. That's 2 years quicker than any other bridge project to this magnitude was done. So I don't know if Joe and Mike, you want to bring the photo up front. And but it's a beautiful bridge and we're all proud, and it was exciting to win an award on it last year.
Thank you. We're excited to be here this morning. We actually have two of these, right? So we're going to leave one with the commissioners to place wherever you like, and the other we're going to present to the highway department so they can hang it down in the highway department somewhere. We think bridges are
Sir, pardon me, could you?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Honestly,
They don't have a mic.
We think that bridges are structures with cell buildings. They connect transportation links either across rivers or across other roads or whatever it may be, but bridges are critical links in our transportation system. This bridge was very special to us and also to the county, I think, because it was a replacement. And it was a replacement of a bridge in a very aesthetically pleasing area along the White River. And so we paid a lot of attention to not only how this bridge functions, but what it looks like. And we think we accomplished the goal of the county in this project. So we're just proud to present this for safekeeping for the future and future reference on a project that we think was stellar in your community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice one.
I like that. I had quite a few people tell me that they enjoyed driving over the bridge, and then they're also able to see the river down below. So they think that's very important. You're not feel like you're just a bunch of cement. They like to look through the.
Yeah, there's two beautiful overlooks, and something I forgot to mention, Mike was one of our inspectors, and the other one, they're both locals in Muncie. So it was really cool. This bridge meant to them as much as it did us. It wasn't just another project. So thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it. Next, we have bids for material supply services necessary for maintenance, construction, and reconstruction of county roads and bridges.
First, we need to verify that all the packages were submitted by 3 p.m. Thursday, April 17th. That was the deadline. Okay.
Yeah.
Sean, if you could read off the company's name, address, and what material they're bidding on.
Bear with me for just a moment. The outside, crushed stone and sand.
Materials. Okay, the first bid is from Irving Materials. Do you need the address or just the name?
You go ahead and state the address for record. City, yeah.
Okay, Irving Materials located at 4313 East 350 North in Muncie, Indiana.
Andrew, do you want to come down here, because they're not filling it out in the spot that you indicated it should be. You might want to help her with that, 'cause I can, here's the page, and
So these are all
Okay.
2A, which would be this done.
Okay, they might have it listed separately. Yes, this is just for crushed stone.
This is
and
just for,
sand.
okay, this is just item 2A, crushed stone and sand.
The majority of these bids have several items. I don't know if the commissioners want you to read each one individually, but normally we provide a tabulation sheet for the next meeting. You could be reading
Just go one.
Okay, so under crushed stone and sand, there is an entry on 4 separate, looks like they'll be getting it from 4 separate locations, is that
They
correct?
offer it at 4 different locations.
Okay, so is it the same bid 4 times, or is it?
No, it's different unit prices from different locations.
Okay.
They just have several.
So they've listed,
quarries.
they've listed the different locations from the Muncie Quarry, the Pendleton Quarry, the Luray Pit, and the Anderson Pit, all for crushed stone and sand.
That's sufficient.
Okay, so there's no total, okay.
No, because it's just how we, just by unit price, and what we need at the time.
Okay. We'll read the next one, and see if we can.
okay, this one here, yeah, put that one back together.
Yes.
We need to.
Okay.
It's not a total.
The second
It's-
one is
it's individual
from
prices.
Milestone Contractors, 105 East Lafayette Street, Portland, Indiana. And what does it say on the envelope what they're bidding for?
Well, it looks like it's all asphalt here.
And they have submitted a bid for asphalt. And they again have 5 line items here. This is based on, is this the general region?
I think it's,
They list surface, intermediate, and base asphalt.
It's whatever the commissioners choose. Normally, we provide a tabulation sheet because they may, have 40 different types of materials
Mhm.
with a unit price for each single one. So, it's whatever you prefer us to do.
what do you want us to do?
I think for the record, we need to have it listed.
List of the prices.
And then should we back up to the previous one?
We'll have that one if you get it done.
Did you go next door last year and calculate that real quick?
No, there's several spreadsheets, a lot of items.
If,
So we can just.
You're gonna have to do a lot of tabulation there.
Yeah.
yeah, if we back up to the first entry,
Because it'll be public record, anybody wants to see it,
Right,
they
I
can see
provide, I
it.
give it to
So-
She gives it to me and I insert it into the minutes.
Yeah.
It's usually just.
And the different vendors will contact us once we have the tabulation sheet prepared, we give them copies.
so we'll create a tabulation sheet after, okay. So, this Milestone Contractors, they're listing, the asphalt component of this, and they list surface, intermediate, and base. This bid is from Asphalt Materials, PO Box 68123 out of Indianapolis, Indiana. And looks like it's a bid for asphalt as well. So, I think it's just asphalt. And the list there's through plant pickup and job site delivery.
These two is asphalt.
Okay. This bid is from E&B Paving, Inc., 4308 East County Road 350 North, Muncie, Indiana. It also is a bid for asphalt. Several line entries for different types, and it's just asphalt as well. This bid is from Brooks Construction Company, Inc., P.O. Box 9560, Fort Wayne, Indiana. They bid on asphalt as well. And it's broken up into surface, intermediate, and base. This bid is from Petroleum Traders Corporation, 7120 Point, Inverness Way, Fort Wayne, Indiana. And this is for fuel. And it's itemized through unleaded, blended, number 2 diesel, biodiesel. That was Petroleum Traders. This is from AgBest LLC, P.O. Box 392, Muncie, Indiana. This is a bid for fuel as well. Listed through blended diesel fuel, and biodiesel. Just fuel. I believe that's fuel. Okay.
That's all. Right now, because this is the next line bid.
Okay. So you'll create a tabulation sheet of all these entries that'll be available, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's the end of the bids.
Thank you.
Chris, did you have a comment?
Yes, we recommend that we accept all the bids, providing that the bidders meet the requirements that are stated in the notices that were sent out to bidders.
Something we have always done. And you and Angie and everybody will confirm that. I'll make a motion to accept all bids and award all bids, subject to the review and approval. Make sure they met within the bid specs as advertised.
Second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Denise, call the roll, please.
Ms. Brigham?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. Next is bids for new ambulance, Jason Rogers.
We only received one bid and I opened it with the others, so
No, we have others.
we have.
But I
Oh,
thought we
you've got
weren't
them.
doing that.
Well,
We are doing it then, huh?
Good morning, Jason Rogers, Director of Emergency Medical Service. We had, I think, I'm going to call it a clerical error. We did receive bids on Friday, which was Good Friday, and I talked to Sean last week, and I think in fairness to the bidders, if anybody couldn't meet our time requirement or they did try to bid, now we did receive some that got sent to EMS after they tried to deliver them to the county building, but because we were closed Good Friday, my suggestion would be to send the bids back and then we'll rebid them just out of fairness in case somebody either didn't get theirs sent in or there was a return to sender that we're not aware of. I think we have them all, but I think out of fairness to all of the bidders and make sure that we do get the best price, that we send those back and we'll re-advertise.
Very well.
Yeah, it's fine with me.
But you're not in a hurry, so you can.
Well, we're not in a huge hurry, no. I mean, it's only a couple of weeks, and it'll still take 8 months to get the ambulance built, so we're fine.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
Thank you. Denise, I'll get with you on data.
Next, we have Jim Gooden, Community Enhancement Project.
Is this okay here?
Yes.
Good morning. I'm Jim Gooden. Community Enhancement Projects is a local, not-for-profit, privately funded organization through donations and grants. We attempt to improve the appearance of our community in many ways. Examples that most people here might recognize are the planting areas along Walnut Street, at the corners, at the intersections, the triangles around the Gilbert Street, and several other areas. The park out here at the corner of Weiser and High Street, along in the corner overlooking White River, and many others. We are at this time considering a project which would require your permission for us to proceed, and that would be to landscape the planting areas that here in the public square that are along High Street, on the west side of the county building, and along Washington Street along the north side of the county building. Previously, we were involved with the relocation of the statues from the former courthouse, which are, as you all know, are back here on the northwest corner of the county building square. And many of us think that it has really made a contribution to the character and appearance of that area. There are several projects going on around the public square that are improving the properties and restoring the architectural character. And we believe that this landscaping project would enhance and support that kind of effort. Therefore, we're asking for your permission to go into our investigative stage. Well, this is the investigative stage. And we'll go from here if the commissioners have interest in supporting our doing so.
I was very impressed with your brochure, Jim, and how long your agency's, your nonprofit's been around. Now, my question on Washington Street, is that on both sides?
Just around the county building square.
Not just the center?
No, it's, we have no plans for that.
I know
at
it
this point.
looked nice, so appreciate it.
I'm certainly in favor of it.
Yep, mine too.
Do we need a motion to accept, or we'll just say good luck?
I don't know if we need a
I don't-
motion.
And you
We'll
will
do a motion
maintain
anyway.
it? You will have someone that will water? Would you like for us to take over the watering?
That has been typical of our projects in the past. We're just at the beginning stages of this, and all of those things will be taken under consideration, and we will, of course, keep you informed as we go through the different phases of the projects. We have to determine what the budget would be and where we
I'm sure
will.
Mr. Walker could talk to.
Pardon me?
I'm sure you could work with Mr. Walker and he could work something.
If Mr. Walker is your designated representative, we most certainly will work with him as correct. I would need to have his contact information and that sort of thing, so.
It should be here. She's not.
Well, we can get that. I'll give you a call. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Work 1, Melissa Lemming. Discuss the ramp and introduce CO. Mike Rowe.
Good morning. My name's Melissa Lemming. I'm with Work One. Commissioner Riggin had asked me to speak today to the Delaware County folks about becoming an ACT work-ready community. First of all, if you're not familiar with what an ACT work-ready community is, these are communities that have taken the initiative to actively improve the skills and work readiness of their workforce, and also giving employers an efficient and reliable way to identify skilled job seekers. All work-ready communities use an industry-recognized skill credential called the National Career Readiness Certificate. Sometimes you'll hear that called an NCRC. This is used to measure and close skill gaps among workers and job seekers. This certification is a national credential that certifies essential skills needed for workplace success, which includes reading for information, applied mathematics, and locating information. The work-ready community measures all workforce categories, including current, which are your existing workforce, your emerging, which are the youth coming out of high schools and colleges, and the transitioning, which are the unemployed and those working on their adult basic education or the new high school equivalency project. Originally, work-ready communities were only for entire states, but due to the efforts of Delaware County and some other counties throughout the nation, ACT allowed us to do a pilot. And those of you, ACT might be familiar with, they do a lot of the testing for in high schools for youth that are trying to go to college. It's kind of like your SATs, but it's called the ACT. This is the organization when I talk about ACT. So anyway, they allowed us to start a pilot, and when it was announced that there was a pilot for the ACT work-ready communities, Commissioner Bledsoe and Mayor Tyler signed the application request for Delaware County to become an ACT work-ready community. This was back in July of 2013. Delaware County received approval to begin the process in late August. And then Todd Donati and I began the training academy, which is required by ACT, in October, and we just have completed our third session. We have one more session to go, which will be later this year. Delaware County officially kicked off becoming a work-ready community on April 17th, which was just this past Thursday. There has been a press release sent out. To help understand what we are doing as well as how we are doing, I would invite you to visit the workreadycommunities.org site. It's all one word, workreadycommunities.org. When you go to that site, you're going to see the nation, and you'll see each state broken out. If you click on Indiana, it's kind of a red color. If you click on Indiana, it'll bring up all Indiana with all of the counties. You're going to see 3 counties that are red on that, which means they are considered now a work-ready community. Delaware County will be one of those 3 counties. It's Delaware, Rush, and Randolph at this time, and I believe Wayne County will also be going live soon. This is very exciting news for us. And so we have 2 years to meet the goals. So when you go on that site, you're going to see the goals. And there'll be what we've done so far with certifying our workers in our community, as well as our goals and what we've done. So you'll be able to see that. And the good thing is the site selectors also use this as a reason to come to community. They use this information. So just so you know, Delaware County as an employer has also taken the steps to begin using the National Career Readiness Certificate as a tool in hiring for some of the positions at the county level. We met with the county a couple of weeks ago, and the discussion took place on how could we assist, and this was one of the tools that the county is now utilizing. So we're very excited for Delaware County to be on board. The exciting thing for Delaware County and the commissioners that you should take pride in is by taking the steps to become a certified work-ready community, Delaware County is not only proving to prospects and site selectors, but also to our existing employers and the entire community that Delaware County is serious about workforce development, and we will prove it through becoming a certified work-ready community.
We thank you for your leadership. Melissa.
Thank you,
And,
Chair.
we don't have to introduce your new boss.
Yes, this is Mike Rowe. I don't know why I'm making that beep. I'm sorry, I don't know. Now I've permanently. Mike Rowe is the new for Alliance for Strategic Growth in the Work One.
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity for the introduction, and thank you also for your ongoing partnership with our organization. Very excited, as you know, economic development that creates increased prosperity and new capital investment in communities is a three-legged stool: logistics, product, or capacity, as economic developers put it, and workforce. So we are your workforce, your servants in workforce development in Region 6, and we're very excited about the collaborative spirit that is already exists here in Delaware County, but also what the future holds. So we, again, are your servants and remain that way. So feel free to call us if your constituents have any workforce development issues that you become aware of. So.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike recently replaced Barbara Street, who's been there for some time, and he's gotten himself very well adjusted. He's visiting places and getting to know the community, and recently moved up north. He's now a Delta Eagle. Welcome, Mike. Glad you could make it today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're looking good.
Next, we have the Health Department, Josh Williams.
Well, thanks for letting me get on the agenda today. I just briefly wanted to update the commissioners on a project that the health department's been involved in. Over the last year, we were able to secure some iPads through a state grant and begin to put a lot of our data when it comes to environmental health work on there. Ron Sefcik, one of the environmental health specialists, has been integral in working with Kyle Johnson through the GIS department in helping to get our data into mappable format, and so we can not only enter data through that interface in the field, we can also do it from the office and then get continually updates. One thing we'll be able to also is at the end of the year for reports and things, be able to extract the data out in a spreadsheet format, so it should help our reporting. But I just wanted to go through a couple layers. This is our methamphetamine labs that we've gotten occurrence reports from the state police. This goes back through 2013, I think, and beyond. So, and we've got over 100 active, that were active meth labs. There's a lot of dump sites and a lot of other things that are occur, but this is just the houses, properties that have had active meth labs. And the green ones are ones that have gone through, gotten a clearance report, have certified that the house is no longer, or is not a contamination risk. Then the reds are ones that are still active or have not been cleaned up or have the testing fully done by the homeowners. So I know the state, at the state level, they've been looking at having a database that's available for folks to look at. And recently, just this year, legislation went through, I think, for the state police to be able to go ahead and publish something on a public level, but we're a little bit ahead of them. So we can click on the site, get the address, and then also the incident report from the state police, and whether it's open or closed. We didn't go through and put all the detail under because we still have the paper reports. If anybody wanted to request, they could look at. I think ultimately what we'd like to do with some of these layers is possibly, right now they're all internal and not available to the public through the website, but eventually we'd like to make them more available, so if people could go to these maps first as opposed to calling us for an information request, then that could drive some efficiency within our department, not have us spending time on information requests if they can get the access to the information. Another one of these are animal bites reports that we've received. So anytime there's an animal bite incident, human, animal, otherwise, we have to receive a report on that. And so that's, the blue is, I think, dogs, the red is bats, and the green are cats. So we work with the animal shelter in the city to do the quarantine process. So anytime that there's an animal bite, it does require a 10-day quarantine process if it's to a human. The shelter sometimes takes those in, or the homeowner can do the quarantine if they're competent enough to carry that out. So that's, I think that, was that just 2013?
That's just last year.
That's just last year, the number of animal bite incidents in the county. I worked several years ago with an intern to look at working to map septic permits, looking at new and repair. I think we were able to get through 4 townships. We've mapped our pools, semi-public and public pools that we have permits on. Now we do inspections regularly throughout the county. We've taken the sewage study information and looked at areas that have in the county that are identified as having sewage problems, and the green ones are the ones that have been corrected, and the red ones are the ones that are still identified as needing to be worked on. So that gives us a good visualization of where systems have been corrected and where there's still areas that need to be addressed. And this is also from that old study that looked at how many individual sewage treatment plants there used to be. A lot of these are no longer in existence because of the sanitary district work and regional sewer district work. But these were individual package treatment plants, a lot of them at the end of their life stage. And then we also have taken our complaints that we receive and have mapped those and looking at, and then also breaking them down into, after they're assigned to an individual employee, and then we are able to look at which ones, like the gray that are closed, the red that are still open and active, and the orange that are in some type of process of enforcement. We're able to click on those and get information about the incident. And we're also to add and edit. We can take photographs with the iPad. They attach directly to the file in the field. So and then also we can issue the orders through the electronic device and then have them recorded and attached to the data point. So ultimately hoping to get rid of multiple cameras and then having to come back to the office and download, and having that more of a streamlined process. So it's been a successful, I think, program to implement, and hopefully next stage, I think we're going to look and get our food establishments, all the licensed food establishments included, and then looking at any other data points that we could potentially put in there. So just wanted to kind of show you what we've been doing internally, and appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very interesting.
Next on the agenda would be contracts and agreements for approval. Mr. Craycraft, yeah, the agreement to provide professional consulting services.
Yes, good morning. The contract that I submitted to the commissioners is for someone to do our incentive reporting. January of '08, we began doing that in-house. The previous clerk used Malcon, and we believed that we could do the report ourselves, so we started doing it in-house, which saved about $600 a month. I had Dulcet Consulting come and do a time study, and he spent 2 days in our office just studying, seeing what we actually did on child support cases. And he believes that we can receive more monies to go back to the county general fund. His cost is $500 a month. 66 2/3 of that is reimbursed. It's actually paid out of the incentive money. It's not paid out of county general fund dollars. So his cost would actually be $167 after reimbursement. So I told him that I would give him about 6 months to try to see if actually he can get us some more funding. And if he does, that benefits the county. And if not, then, you know, we'll do it in-house again, so.
Has he been in business sometime, Steve? Or?
He worked for Maximus for a long time, and Maximus actually did I think they did some of the county reimbursement, and he began his own consulting firm. He has about 20 counties across the state.
And we've had attorney review this. I'll move for approval of the agreement to provide professional consulting services.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Denise, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Ms. Riggin?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Next, we have a proposal from Amoresco, Scott Alexander, and Sherry Riggin.
How my name is on there?
Did you want-
Mark speaking for me.
We're going to let Mark start. Go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. For the record, my name is Mark Kerbrand. I'm a senior account executive with Amoresco. Over the past 6 months, we've had the opportunity to perform an analysis and study of 3 Delaware County facilities, the county building, the Justice Center, and also the Highway Department. During that time, we've done an in-depth utility analysis looking for cost savings opportunities that you have within your facilities. During that study, we deployed several data loggers out. What a data logger does is it measures the temperature, humidity, when lights go on, when they go off, when motors go on, when they go off. And the reason to do that is to get fact-based information to get a good understanding of how your buildings are operating and where there are some opportunities to save on not only money on your utilities, but provide better comfort throughout your buildings. During that, we also did infrared scans on those buildings. We identified several opportunities that, we formed a building committee, and just some of the people that served on that building committee that attended some of those meetings. We had obviously Commissioner Sherry Riggin, Commissioner King came to one of the meetings, Angie Moyer, Scott Alexander, Mike Jones, Rick Spangler, Charlie Walker, Rick Lorison, Jeannie Justice was also at one of those, along with Judy Rush. Set in one of the meetings to understand the financial implications for a project like this. After going over this and having several discussions with the committee, it was determined that with all of the energy conservation measures that we came up with, we approached this in several different ways. We came with the base project, and that base project was at $2,717,364,000. And then also with that, with the energy savings that we had, just energy savings alone was $115,306 that we identified. We also identified some operational savings of $124,200. And as part of that, one of the things that we do, and I think that we do a very good job on it, is we're always looking for any type of grants, incentives to help to offset some of those costs. And just preliminarily, we've identified $58,792 in rebates that we could get just from doing some of these efficiency improvements. As I mentioned, that base project that we brought first was $2,717,364. We also approached it too by bringing some alternative options too, and with that was, as I know several of you are aware, we've had some issues over in the Justice Center with gang flushing and a lot of damage that happens when inmates will continually flush their toilets simultaneous. It will overflow and causes havoc within that. You've had to, I know, move some of your courts around, but just this year alone, and I understand you had one on Friday too, another one of those incidents. So you've had 11 of them this year. We haven't calculated exactly what that savings could be, but obviously it takes a lot of labor. It's an inconvenience and a lot of damage that happens from that. And one of our water conservation measures that we do is be able to have the sheriff and staff be able to have control of the water system so that you cannot continually push that button and continually flow. It also helps the sheriff's department with identifying contraband and be able to shut those down before they do searches. It's a great tool, and it's been implemented in several correctional facilities throughout the state of Indiana. The other thing that we looked at too was doing when we did our infrared scans, we got a lot of complaints, obviously from the front offices in regards to comfort. There's a lot of space heaters that are there. You have single pane glass all along this, and when it was built in the 1970s, nothing's been changed on that. We looked at the possibility of putting some vestibules in there, because when you open both of these doors simultaneously, you've got a wind tunnel that goes through and lets a lot of cold air into your buildings. And it was the consensus of the committee to go ahead and to get those items done as part of a comprehensive project. And I think what the philosophy was instead of piecemealing this, do one comprehensive project, get it all done, rather than continually coming back with escalations of costs over time and being able to implement that. And with those additions, it actually came down. It was $3,533,316. And I know that Scott was very instrumental in setting up a lot of these meetings, along with several other committee members. And today we're here really to ask for approval to move forward with these with this project. And what we're advising is it be contingent on legal review, along with funding by the county council. And our intent is to have a workshop with the county council, and also commissioners obviously invited to that, to sit down and have a detailed discussion about how something like this could be funded, and that would be our next step.
Scott might want to focus on that one.
Yeah, Scott Alexander, County Council. Mark and his team have spent a considerable amount of time identifying and coming up with the plan, I guess, and the committee thought that we might just bring the entire plan to you guys to, I guess, propose today. And I think the idea was, from the meetings that we had last week with some county councilmen, I think, Larry, you were the only one that hadn't seen the plan yet, was to take a closer look at this and make sure that we're getting the best bang for a buck on all of these things, and then make a final decision on how far we go with this, or to what extent we go with the plan. Obviously, the biggest problem, or the biggest hurdle that we're going to encounter, is the funding on this. And I think, from talking with the three of you, I think we're going to need some help on figuring that out. So we kind of proposed a joint meeting. Other than that, Mark did an excellent job of presenting. I thought I would have more to say, but he did an excellent job of covering every aspect, including thanking the committee for their time, some of the people in the buildings, and I know Jeannie spent some time getting some information for the study, and we thank them for that.
So what do you, as far as the funding, what are, I know we talked on the phone before, but is the council going to have some conversations about that as well?
Well, I mean, you know the financial position that we're in, and it would be nice to do these things. I mean, some of the things that are indicated in the study are items that are just going to become deferred maintenance, and we don't want to get in the same situation as some other entities in the county have gotten themselves into and turn this $3 million into something much greater down the road. It's a lot of money. I think we need to probably take a closer look at the study and make sure these are things that will benefit the county moving forward.
I know at some point, I mean, realistically, you'll have to take some added money, I would assume, to help fund.
Well, and the study actually brought a funding mechanism as well. I mean, and I'm not entirely sure on how this works going forward, but it was broken into the base plan has a 12-year cost savings payoff, and the additional portion of the plan, which I think is important to consider at least part of it, if not all of it. It actually solves the issue that we have in the Justice Center over there, which is pretty considerable, considering we've already, I guess, 11 times had an issue this year alone. And if we go back and count year after year, I mean, this could actually solve that problem. So they've got a way to finance this, I guess, more or less. We just have to figure out a way to pay for it. Is the biggest issue that we're going to have to tackle, and that was the reason that I thought we felt that we should have a joint meeting with maybe the commissioners and the council and try and figure out a way to make either all or part of this. I mean, this is, so far we haven't spent any money with Amoresco yet. We don't have to do any of the things that are in this proposal, but they are things that are needed in the county, and we can't just stop maintaining. So, any other questions?
How soon do you think we could be having some of these meetings?
Well, shortly after you guys approve this, so. As soon as we can. I mean, I think there's obviously cost savings out there in some, if not all, these over a period of time. So the sooner we get to it and get these things completed, the sooner we start recognizing those cost savings.
Do we want to name a formal committee, or?
You already got the committee.
Well, the committee's made the recommendation of the committee is for you guys to go ahead and approve this. The next step would be for the council and the commissioners to find a funding mechanism and make sure that all of the projects that are in this report are something that we want to proceed with.
And the meeting that I was in with you also, Scott, some of the stuff that they're talking about on the call savings, some equipment we're going to eventually have to replace anyways, correct?
That's correct. I know that the two big things in there are the chillers on both buildings. Eventually those are going to fail and have to be replaced. The other important thing, I think, was out at the highway department. If you guys get a chance, or maybe you've already been there, the lighting issue out there in the bays where the guys are working out there is not good. They did some measurements, or took some measurements on that, and it's probably something that should have happened before now. But it's something. These are necessary improvements. I don't know that there's anything that couldn't be argued as necessary improvements in there. But there are some things in there that if we feel like this is too much to take on, that we could back off on too. So I think we need to take a closer look at it. But at this point, it's I guess to you guys to make a decision on where we go from here. You can. The committee's recommendation is to accept the report, both the base and the additional, and then let us try and work out how we can get it done.
So move them. I mean, I think the funding's there. We'll just.
Jeff Arnold, I was wondering if I could ask a couple questions about that. You talked about a 12-year study on that. Does that include a cost recapture in terms of savings, utility savings?
Yeah, the 12-year would be the cost recapture for the base plan, and then the 15-year would be the cost recapture for the entire, for both parts, the base plus the additional.
And I think there's no question that the toilet situation up in the jail is a major issue, but I think if you talk to the judges and the people that use this building, the employees of both buildings, they would all tell you that the temperature fluctuation in the offices is our biggest issue. We're dying in the summertime sometimes. We have offices that are so cold that people run heaters in the summer, or so hot, like my, that you can hardly breathe at times. Now, some of that is our fault because we've changed walls and we've put new walls in, and this building's been changed over and over and over the years without the ductwork being changed in the ceiling. But that is a major issue, not only here, but over next door. The courtrooms, when you do trials over there, one may be freezing and one may be so hot that you can't wear a suit. And it may be side by side. So I'm hoping that that's something that you will consider as early as possible if we look at this plan. Thank you.
So that was your motion, Chair? I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Denise, call the roll, please.
Ms. Reagan?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes. Next, contractual agreement between Tobacco Free Coalition of Delaware County. Josh?
Now, this was a contract that was looked at by the Board of Health and approved the recommendation to the commissioners for ultimate approval. Looking at it was recommended looking at the website. Commissioner Bledsoe had brought up that the tobacco website, Tobacco Free Delaware County website, which links from the health department's website, was outdated and it has had some issues for a while. So this proposal would pay for a new website to be developed and then also maintained for 2 years that's in this contract. Should take care of a lot of those issues of the older one that we were having some problems with the hosting agency. It is, the payment for it will come out of the grant from the state, which is from the Indiana Tobacco Prevention Cessation Commission.
Have a motion and a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. Denise, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Ms. Reagan?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes.
Thank you,
John.
John.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
John.
Next, we have the PSC contract. We've heard about this over the last several months from the public and everything. Today, we're not going to take any public comments on this. Our attorneys reviewed it, and we're going to let her give a little explanation about it. Then the commissioners can discuss it, and we also have the assessor here to go over a few things. So,
Okay, sure. Steve Murphy and I both were working on this matter, and we were reviewing two separate contracts, and I'll discuss the 2012 contract first. It was a contract with PSC, and I think that what we were looking at was whether or not there was actually a contract approved during 2012. I think it would have been at the October 1st meeting. The minutes didn't reflect that a contract had been approved. The minutes reflected that a prior contract had been rescinded, and Mr. Carmichael was at the meeting, and he had asked for the rescinding and asked for a new revised contract to be approved, but the minutes weren't clear. So what we did was we went back and pulled the audio and transcribed the audio from the October 1st meeting. And the audio does clearly reflect that in addition to the contract being rescinded, the revised contract was approved. And what I did was I asked that Denise go ahead and transcribe that portion of the minutes so we would have it typed out. And we did get the answer we were looking for. It just that the meeting minutes, they weren't accurate. Obviously, things like that happen. It wasn't intentional. It's something that probably happens from time to time. So my recommendation with regard to that 2012 matter is that the minutes from October 1st, 2012 be corrected to reflect what the audio recording has on its record, and that would be that the contract was approved. With regard to any allegations of untruthfulness, then this would go for the 2012 and the 2014 that we'll discuss, or any collusion or any other allegations. Those are best reviewed by an outside agency. Commissioners obviously aren't an investigative body, so what I've done is I've given Ron Halbert from the Indiana State Police just everything that we have that we've looked at. So I think that's it with the 2012. I'll also note that after October 1st, when the revised agreement was adopted, the following meeting, I believe in November, there was an amendment made to that revised agreement. And in looking through the records, it appears that when that was signed and dated, the year is incorrect. So it's just, there's a lot of confusion that's been inadvertently caused. So while we're clearing that up, we might just want to get on the record that that November 2012 amendment, the date was incorrect on that when it was signed. Moving on to the 2014 contract with PSC, I believe that bids were due in late December on that matter, and then in February, I don't know the exact date, maybe February 17th, is when the bids were accepted. Or maybe when I'm sorry, that might have been when the contract was approved. So we've looked at 3 separate matters with regard to that contract. The first was the addition of digital photography services. And I want to note at the outset that when the bids came in, digital photography was not on PSC's bid. It was on the other bid, I believe. And then when the contract was approved in February, there was a line item, a separate line item for digital photography, and Mr. Carmichael was here, and we went back and listened to that audio as well, and he did tell the commissioners that the photography services had been added. I don't think that the commissioners fully understood that the cost was affected by that addition. So the communication maybe wasn't as clear as we would have hoped it would have been. So we kind of looked at the photography and what it did to the contract. I don't find anything in the statute, and Steve Murphy looked as well, that clearly states that you can't change things, absent collusion. But the fact that the photography, did add a dollar amount to the contract, I think it increased it by $180,000. You could reasonably consider that a material change. And given the fact that the commissioners didn't seem to be aware that monetary increase was present, it's probably best practice my recommendation would be just to pull it out, amend that contract so that that's not included, and then bring that up on its own for consideration. And I think Mr. Carmichael, we've spoken, and I don't know if you want to speak to that.
Let me do that now?
Go ahead and do that now.
Sure.
We're on that issue. Just that issue though, please.
James Carmichael, County Assessor. I've managed and overseen this office and the mass appraisal system for quite some time now, but I also believe that we need to keep up with times too. Existing taxpayers would have had a service here that would attract business, and homeowners could be looking at our system and our Beacon website from across the country. Also, these people, real estate professionals, appraisers, business interests relocating to Delaware County have asked our office to provide more information, including photos on our website. These photographs are also a tool we could use in the property tax appeals or just when taxpayers have questions, providing evidence of the condition of the property and improvements in place from year to year. Myself and staff would have the ability to see the house rather than just a line sketch and an aerial photo of a roof and land. I also believe that adding digital photographs of properties and improvements on the Beacon website for a cost of $45,000 a year, or just 75 cents per parcel over the next 4 years is cost effective and would benefit the county, as well as taxpayers, real estate professionals, business and potential residents who are considering relocating to this county. But let's not put the cart before the horse here. I understand, and in full agreement, that things need to be budgeted. Let's look at it from that perspective. Okay? So I'm going to propose that addendum be done to the contract, removing the photographs for now until the budgets are approved. I'll run it through the budget process. If county council gives their approval to adding these photographs, then we will do another addendum and put them back in for the 2015 budget. So that's my what I want to say about that. Do we have any questions from the panel?
No.
Okay.
Yes, thanks, James.
I will get that prepared probably sometime in May before I get it back up here, and we'll get that done.
Quickly wrapping up the photography matter that we were speaking of, Steve Murphy, I believe, spoke to Mike Duffy, who's the staff attorney for the DLGF. We went through him and talked to him about it, and he did indicate that it was a local matter, and the DLGF wouldn't really take any opinion one way or another on it. But ultimately, I think because it's a material change and because the communication between the commissioners and the assessor at that meeting didn't appear to be quite on the same page. Like I said, Mr. Carmichael did say that it had been added. But because I don't think commissioners were aware that the contract had increased by $180,000, I think it's best to pull it out. And I know Steve Murphy has talked to Beth Hinkle, who is the attorney for PSC, and I think they're comfortable with that. I don't want to speak for them, 100% though, but that was my understanding. There were two other changes that occurred from the bid to the actual contract that was approved. And the second one I'm going to talk about is the appeal services. And I don't want to confuse anyone because it took me a while to weed through it also and understand it. But essentially what happens is the DLGF controls the template form of these contracts. And when the bid came in from PSC, it was actually on a contract form. And what happened was from the time period when the bid came in until the contract was negotiated and executed, the DLGF did make changes to that form template. And one of the changes was in the appeal services section of that contract. So the language in the appeals was changed. Originally under the bid, there were 600 8-hour business days that were kind of under the contract for appeal work, and then there was a certain cost that was going to be allocated for anything that went above that 600 days. When the contract was executed, the form had changed somewhat, and it really allowed you to kind of separate general appeal work and formal appeal work in a way that wasn't allowed in the original form. And I talked to Mike Duffy again from the DLGF, and he acknowledged that that form had changed with regard to appeals. And we kind of looked at the first version and the second version of the form, and agreed that you couldn't keep it exactly the same since you were now required to use this new form. So Steve Murphy and I both looked at it, and essentially the bid was at 600 8-hour business days for appeal work. The contract as written now has 500 kind of general appeal work days, and then an additional 100 dedicated to formal appeals, and then there's a dollar amount in both of those sections for anything that goes above those allocated times. And we looked at it, and we really think that it was a good faith effort to write that contract on the new template form that was required, a good faith effort to make it as substantially similar as possible. It couldn't be exactly the same, obviously, because the language had changed on the form. And actually, depending on how the appeals work out, it could save the county a little bit of money. I don't know that it will, but it could, because formal appeals were I believe, 150 an hour before, and now it's 450 a day if you go above what's been allocated. So if there's more than 3 hours spent on a given day on a formal appeal, then you're at that 450, and if you go above that, you stay at that 450. So while it might not save money, but it's possible that it could. But we feel that it was a good faith attempt to come up with a formula on the new template that most closely resembled the bid amount. So my recommendation is to just leave that as it is, under the understanding that the DLGF changed the form. The third and final change was the addition of some data entry responsibility for the county. You know, Steve and I both looked at it, and I didn't see it as a material change, neither did he. It doesn't appear to alter the cost of the contract, but what I will say is it's kind of vague with regard to what exactly the county is going to be doing or is expected to be doing. So my recommendation on that would be to ask Mr. Carmichael to add some clarification language to as to what the county is going to be doing with the data entry, and fold that into any amendment you have if you pull the photography out.
If I could make a comment on that portion, if you don't mind. On the 600 days that you were speaking of, yeah, that was a tough one to sit down and figure out by hand, but it will have a potential savings of about $75,000 by doing it that way. And the reason why we put that many days in, if you go in and look at the state's website and look at the contracts that have been signed here lately, other vendors only allow for about 10 to 30 days of hearings. The reason why we put this in here in our specifications, everything, so we don't have an overrun and a huge expense on top of over the top of just a small amount of days. Some of those counties will burn through their 30 days in a couple of weeks, and then they'll be paying these huge overruns. The reason why I have this many days is to eliminate that. As far as the data entry and that sort of thing, there's been some wild accusations of adding $440,000 to the contract. That is all a myth. We will be doing that data entry in-house and not hiring any additional people to do that. So that takes care of any additional finances. Okay?
Did you have any other questions? Or did I not hit on anything that?
I believe you answered everything. Thank you.
Research.
A lot of man hours went into this, a lot of communication, and I guess we need a series of motions. So I'll start with the first being the minutes of October 1st meeting, to amend those as presented by Denise's transcription that the contract was in fact approved. So that's my motion on the minutes.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second on the minutes. Denise, call the roll, please.
Miss Reagan?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes.
I'd like to thank the commissioners for going through all this. I know you got more pressing things to do besides political things. Your attorneys have more things to do. Took a little bit longer than all of us would have liked, but I'm glad you went through it. And I'd like to thank Denise Smith for going back and finding the problem with the 2012 contract and that it was actually approved. Thank you, Denise.
Most definitely, Denise, we appreciate it. These minutes, like you say, we've been questioned. Not all of us verbatim. It's impossible to do. I mean, it's not only this minute meetings. Denise takes care of several. Patty, everybody in here. I know a lot of them. Some Maggie and a few others do minutes, and it's very time consuming. We missed the review, as commissioners when we approved that. Again, you look at these minutes, you're looking on either an iPod, a computer at home, and it's electronically. If you scroll down, it's just something that was missed, and I'm sure it's going to happen again, but it's nice that we have the audio, and we have used the audio tape several times in any kind of litigation or any other questions that we have. And with the system we have, albeit not perfect when you read it on a piece of paper, but with the audio and our investigations and our conclusions on items such as this, it always works out. So,
And I'd like to add down at the bottom of our minutes every week that anybody can call Judy, and I don't know, Judy, how many days notice you need for someone to come in and do an audio, but it's accessible to the public, so They just go through your office. Case dismissed.
I would entertain that a couple people in this room give me an apology for accusing me of illegalities. So if you're classy enough to stand up and do that, you can do that this time.
I think the next one, I'd like to clarify the contract of November 2012 that was dated the 2011 be amended as such, and this, that I'll make a motion that the date was November 2012 and not 2011, so it'd be correct.
Second down.
Have a motion and a second. Denise, call the roll.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Ms. Riggin?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes.
Okay, now I'd like to make a motion that we amend the current PSC contract, striking the photography out of that, based, and that being also on a contingent that it's amicable to both parties. James?
He's still here.
That, as long as we have, you know, we'll have to approve that at a later date as that's.
Yeah, we'll try and have that. I don't know what the meeting dates are in May, but I'll try and get that to you mid-May, whatever that meeting date is, so we can get that taken out there.
Both parties being in agreement. Is that all I needed in that one, Sean? I mean, because the appeal, the DLGF, they're all comfortable with everything else remain the same. And if we could also maybe get a little bit of clarification and definition of the clerical duties, James, in that contract as well, that kind of irons that out a little bit better.
While you're amending it.
While we're amending it, just a little bit more
Holding some language into it.
definition of the.
Sure, yeah, no problem, no problem.
Second down.
Have a motion and a second. Denise, call the roll, please.
Ms. Riggin?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, thank everybody for your hard work in this. And I believe we should be done with the PSC contracts, and I don't know about the other commissioners, but I'm ready to move on. So we will go to appointments. First one is Commissioners' Common Construction Wage Scale Hearing Appointment for the Muncie Sanitary District Project. With the next 90 days, Kevin Cope.
I'll move.
Here today.
No.
No.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. Denise, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Ms. Riggin?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes. Next, we have County Commissioner District Planning Council appointee Stephen Savage for Deputy Director of EMA.
I'll move for approval of Stephen Savage.
Second that.
Got a motion and a second. Denise, call the roll.
Ms. Riggin?
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes. We have no tabled business, no ordinances for second reading, have an ordinance for first reading.
Mr. President, for the record, this ordinance for being an ordinance to amend the Delaware County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance, it was actually read on the first Thursday of this month, so this would be actually the second reading.
Second reading.
For the record. Marta's not here. Okay, let me get their names. This property is located just south of Centennial, east of the bypass where all the Christmas trees used to be. They're no longer there no more. It's Oliver Furnace and Mary Furnace at 1301 North County Road 275 East. They have a lot adjacent to their real estate that they wish to include it into the farming zone. It's just a small section to make their whole property all one piece. It was a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission, 9-0, just a small.
No, I didn't bring my,
So I'll move for approval of ordinance number.
I didn't bring my book up, so it might be out of order, but I'm going to just say 2014-030.
So I'll move for the final approval of 2014-030.
Second that.
And they couldn't make it today. They had to, they worked, so he was unable to be here.
Have a motion and a second. Denise, call the roll, please.
Mr. Bledsoe?
Yes.
Ms. Riggin?
Yes.
And Mr. King?
Yes. We have no resolutions for approval. Have department heads, elected officials. Is Janet here?
No, I'll speak for her.
Okay.
as you are well know, that we've been working very hard in the auditor's office through our tax sale clerk in order to get parcels adjoined to other parcels when it's appropriate. And of the ones that Janet brought or was going to bring to you, only one of them had 2 bidders on it. She did the appropriate thing, sent letters to all of the adjacent property owners, and so there's only one who had 2 bidders. And so according to the rules on that, there's a drawing to be made at this meeting of the winning bidder. I have both those names here, and here's a cup. We'll put them in there. I can't shake them, but there's 2, and I'll let you pick out one of them.
And please read it for the record.
Yeah.
Kyle and Melina Campbell.
Okay, they are the winners of this particular property, and I'll share that with Janet, and it will be taken care of.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have monthly and weekly reports. We have the one from Weights and Measures. Next, we'll go down to payment of claims in the amount of $816,850.08.
Second. So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Denise, call the roll, please.
Miss Reagan.
Yes.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Mr. King.
Yes. Next, we have questions, comments, answers, any other business except for the PSC contract. I believe we are talking about it. So if you have any questions about anything else, comments, but we are not discussing the contract.
Jim Arnold, 300 East McCollum Boulevard. I was here the last meeting and I had asked that your videos be posted to the website. I was informed that they might be out there now. I guess I want to clarify that. But also, I won't talk about PSC, but you did mention the October 1st meeting that you were transcribed new minutes, which you approved this meeting. I don't know how much you looked at those, but my question is, the minutes were changed based on the transcribed, you said, was it video or audio recording? And so I would like to request that audio recording either be posted to the website or made available so that I could listen to it, because I want to hear that so that I will feel that I understand, you know, why the minutes were changed or what happened at that meeting that justifies changing those minutes. So I would like to personally request
If you
that.
would like to come to our office, we can take care of that as soon as this meeting's over.
Okay, well, yeah, I'd like an audio recording of that meeting then. Thank you.
I want to clarify also that the only portion of that meeting that I asked Denise to transcribe for me dealt with that particular motion. So I'm not saying, I'm making no representation as to the rest of the audio.
And that's the only change.
Yeah.
As she transcribed.
Sure.
She'll be able to take you right to that particular part of the minutes and the audio, and you'll be able to hear it.
Yeah, so I guess to add to my request, I'd like to see a copy of a copy of the minutes and then the copy of the video. And I understand that the changes were only to the portion towards the end where there were questions. Thank you.
I'll move for recess.
Have a motion?
Second.
Have a second to recess?
Oh, excuse me, I got just one thing to say here. Rick Yenser, 3100 North County Road, Fountain West. A couple of people contacted us at the Free Press about some severe flooding problems over by Muncie Creek at Creekside. I know a couple of the commissioners are on the drainage board, and I'd like for you to hear their pleas today. I think some of the problem is not only the climate change where we have these microburst storms that happen, but there might need to be some general drainage work in that area because some of these people that are of age and have disability are having serious problems with that ditch. Thank you.
Denise, you call the roll, please.
Mr. Bledsoe.
Yes.
Miss Reagan.
Yes.
And Mr. King.
Yes.
Thank you. Enjoy your day.